Greetings, Earthlings. I am Professor Crowley and class is in session. Hope you all had a good weekend. Did you have a good weekend?
Yep.
What did you do? What did we do? Because we were together.
We played some Roblox.
We played some Roblox, yeah. We did a lot of watching this weekend. Let us know how your weekend went in the comment section down below. Today's lesson is about evolution. Well done, yes. Trixie, do you know anything so far about evolution?
No.
Not one thing.
Only that we were monkeys.
Only that we were monkeys. Okay, so I've prepared, I've prepared for this class. I've prepared a keynote presentation that we're going to go through on the TV. I'm going to try and use my genius to make it go from the laptop to the TV. So that's my lesson for the day for myself. Trixie, what have you done today?
I have done my workout, I've done my spellings.
Good, yes.
I had breakfast, of course, and lunch.
Actually, something I want to do for all of you at home, Trixie's spelling words for the day from school are the following. This is for everyone at home. Great, unfair, here, as in I am here, not I can hear you. Autograph, that's a tough one. Carefully, usually, finally, morning, lonely, please, and place. So they are the spelling words for now. They were the last ones that we were given from the school before everything closed down and went all crazy. So without further ado, we get on to today's lesson, which is the theory of evolution.
Evolution is a mystery, full of change that no one sees.
So here we are, we're going to be doing about science today, if you hadn't already guessed. The theory of evolution by natural selection. We're going to learn today about a guy called Charles Darwin.
Oh,
Yeah.
who's he?
In the 1800s, there was a very famous scientist called Charles Darwin. So he was a scientist.
Okay.
He loved animals, absolutely loved animals. He was the type of scientist that would study animals and plants.
Okay.
He came up with an idea that would change the way we think about life here on Earth forever.
In the year 1831, Charles Darwin went on an exciting voyage on a ship called the HMS Beagle.
The Beagle explored the coastal shores and islands of South America and Australia.
Whilst on his travels, Darwin observed lots of strange and wonderful animals and plants.
He also collected some. Upon returning back to England, he was able to closer analyse, examine and study the collections of plants and creatures he had made on his travels. So he collected them whilst he was in South America and Australia.
He collected all the plants and animals.
All the odd ones that he found. Interesting. He took them back to England, to his lab, to study closer.
This is when his ideas of evolution came into form.
You could say they evolved from here. Darwin discovered around 15 different species of finch while at the Galapagos Islands.
He noticed that the birds were very, very, very similar to other finches in many ways, but their beaks were different shapes.
Darwin, being a scientist, looked into it further. He found that the different shaped beaks matched that of the type of food available to them on each island. The finches that ate insects had skinny pointed beaks like the one on the far right, and those that ate hard fruits had strong sharp beaks like the first diagram on the left, to get through the skin and essentially survive, so they could eat.
Darwin decided that there was only one way this could happen. The finches must have adapted to their environment over time. This led him to another idea, known as survival of the fittest.
In any environment, plants and animals from the same species show natural variations in their physical characteristics. A great example would be the neck length in giraffes. Darwin suggested that those best suited to their natural environment would survive longer and therefore produce more offspring, baby giraffes, and pass on their life-saving characteristics So in this example, giraffes with longer legs are more likely to survive and pass on their genes, while the giraffes with shorter necks will die out as they cannot reach food from the trees in their environment. Does this make sense? Are you super confused?
Yes.
Over a long period of time, the stronger characteristics that help aid in the survival of a species become more dominant. That's why you hardly see giraffes with short necks these days.
But Professor Crowley, I'm still confused.
Hopefully, this next slide will help. The process of evolution takes a long time. However, I have here an example of the same process in action, but on a surprisingly much shorter timescale than usual. Let's have a look at the peppered moth of London from the early 1800s. The peppered moth of London, this is what they look like. 98% of them had light-coloured camouflage-like body that meant they could blend nicely into their surroundings in trees and successfully hide away from the hungry birds that liked to eat them. Only 2% were dark in colour and consequently stuck out like a sore thumb and were quickly and easily picked off by the preying hungry birds. The light-coloured moths were very happy because they were the same colour as the trees. The lighter moths were able to hide from the hungry birds, but the darker moths were not so fortunate. However, all of that was set to change when the Industrial Revolution came into being. With all its smoke and factories, many of the surrounding trees turned black with soot, and now it was actually the black, darker moths which were blending in better, and as a result, surviving longer. By 1895, 95% of the darker moths were surviving in the population, and only 5% of the lighter moths were remaining.
That is a crazy turnaround.
I know.
What about us humans?
I'm glad you asked. Darwin went on to suggest that humans shared a common ancestor with modern apes.
What?
Yeah. This was controversial at the time as it went against all religious beliefs. Remember though, that this was many years ago, and people didn't know any better, and although religion still exists to this day, science has come a long way in proving facts and leaving faith behind. Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection had a great impact on the world. Today, it is widely accepted as our best scientific explanation of how life on Earth works.
Here's Trixie's 15 evolution facts.
It took Charles Darwin, the English naturalist, animal scientist, the guy we were just talking about a second ago, it took him 20 years to write and publish his original book on the origin of species that explains the process of evolution.
No two animals are the same, even if they belong to the same species. There are over 340 breeds of dogs, yet they all come from one kind of wild wolf that existed many years ago.
Humans share the same 5-fingered bone structure in their hands with lots of different animals that have paws, wings, and flippers, such as lemurs or bats. Many of the pets, farm animals, and garden flowers we see today are the result of human choice. For example, farmers would have chosen to breed the chickens that lay the best eggs, and gardeners would have encouraged the most beautiful plants to grow.
The slightest different colour or design can help an animal or plant live, survive, and reproduce better in the wild. This is natural selection. Instinct is another important part of natural selection. For example, most birds know they must travel to warmer places whenever it's winter to survive, of course. Little changes between one species can add up and create one new species. But often, these changes happen over thousands of years, so it's hard to see evolution happening with our own eyes.
Fossils are hard evidence of extinct species. However, perfect conditions are needed for fossils to form. We are able to see from fossils that dinosaurs, woolly mammoths, and dodos lived many years ago, but we'll never really know all of the weird and wonderful species that previously existed.
Although they both live underwater, dolphins evolved from mammals, whereas sharks evolved of fish ancestors.
Humans, animals, plants, insects, and even bacteria all descend from the first living things that ever came to be.
At one point in time, whales walked on land.
What?
Whales walked on land.
Crazy. While science doesn't yet have answers for all the questions in the world, you have to respect it for what it fundamentally stands for. While science doesn't yet have answers for all the questions in the world, you have to respect it for what it fundamentally stands for. That being the discovery of truth. No longer do we have to fall lazily behind on blind faith and religion, but thanks to the scientific process, we get closer and closer every day to learning more about us and the world we live in. They start by making observations about things, they think of interesting questions, formulate a hypothesis, develop testable predictions, gather data to test said predictions, refine or reject hypotheses, and then retest again and again and again until they develop a general theory. And as a little final note, I would like to recommend some additional study for homework. I recommend you look into the work of Professor Richard Dawkins. He's a fantastic scientist, thinker, skeptic, and teacher. I would particularly recommend you read his book, The Magic of Reality. It's a great read, a beautiful book, delightfully informative for kids as well as adults. So Trixie, what did you make of that lesson?
I thought it was actually really interesting.
I know, right? It's got some surprisingly interesting bits in it.
I can't believe whales walk on land.
They used to, yeah, it's craziness. What else did you learn?
I learned that we were once monkeys.
Yes, we came from a modern type of ape.
I have one more question.
Please.
What were we after apes?
Neanderthals and Homo sapiens. So Homo sapiens is the technical term for what we are now, which is human.
I have one big question.
Oh, I like big questions.
Were we really cavemen?
Yeah, so cavemen would have been the Neanderthals.
How would we be able to sleep?
Well, you see, they were very early humans after the apes. And basically they lived very simple lives. In caves, they would create fires and hunt wild animals for food.
Yeah, so guys, if you like science, comment down below.
Yes, this week is almost going to be solely dedicated to science. Not completely, because on Wednesday, someone
We'll be baking a cake!
Yes, can't wait for that one.
Homemade, made from scratch.
Quality control, Professor Crowley over here. Make sure it's suitable.
Is it a jam cake?
It is jam sponge.
I love jam sponge. Hit the subscribe button.
And like and comment and share with your friends and family.
And if you're new, you should watch us from the start. And I hope that you have subscribed. Do you have anything to say?
No, I don't think so.
I have something.
Your brain is kind of like a sponge. You know,
No,
to suck up all the knowledge. This is what you're missing out on if you haven't already seen one of our TikToks. Until next time, Trixie's got a lot more homeschooling to do today. Thank you and good night.